All right, there we are. It is Zerilath Eternal. What's up? Okay, so we're going to get through the end of chapter 6, and that's going to be it once we get to the end of chapter 6 for tonight. I'm hoping to go through this quickly. Things have been awesome. Be on the lookout. I have to do a lot of work with a bunch of footage. As I've been talking in my drive streams, I went to visit on Sunday the Alex Gray Museum, and I had an amazing time with two of my friends. I was kind of playing wingman for my buddy Dom. Hi, Dom. And I've got a lot of thoughts on the matter. And of course, one of my thoughts that I'm processing with it, talked about it a little bit today in my drive stream today, was not that I'm faulting Alex. I mean, like, it's preposterous as a thing, right? It's just me more commenting on in the zeitgeist of things, because Alex Gray's got a very world art aesthetic, uniforming through his style. And that world art is only limited to X amount of things, I noticed, right? So I'm wondering if he continues to evolve, and will we see anything like what we have here, right? With Indo-European paganism, Celtic and Norse, Germanic, right? Does any of that have a place, right? Because we kind of go Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian, and kind of say that's the white thing, which it sort of is, but I think that the Greeks are kind of, they come off to me, the Greeks and Romans come off to me in the Bach saga of things to be a little bit of kind of like an admixture of tropical peoples and Arctic peoples, right? I think that there's an admixture going on, which is, I think, part of the manner in which the imposter sky gods got their narrative a hold in Greek mythology, right? And the technological explosion and all that stuff. So, anyway, here we are. And by the way, tonight's music, I selected Galdir Jotunheimer. If you don't know Galdir, this guy's got, his voice, man, comes from somewhere. Whew, his voice comes from somewhere. And to put the amount of absolute, like, adoration and admiration of the personal meaning of the mythos into how he sings is quite inspiring. My buddy Tommy, with a pretty big channel, doing stuff with mainstream metal, or, well, not mainstream, although, I'm sure if he wants to talk to Lamb of God or Corey Taylor or something, they may say yes. But I mean, like, he's got a in the heart of the metal scene, channel, where he's got all sorts of awesome guys. Like, he's had, Septic Flesh and Flesh God Apocalypse, and he's also had Katiran on his channel. He's done these awesome interviews, so go check him out. He just interviewed Galdir, the singer. I think his name's Jonathan or something. So go check that out, because it's good stuff. Anyway, we're going to start from here on Honstoder. I can't remember if I read any of, if this part of it I read before I quit, so it'll be a little overlapping, but I think that's good. How's it going, Telonius Terp? Oops, excuse me. In the use of internal runic physiology, perhaps the most important tool is that of the hands. These become the instrument of physical articulation in a way analogous to the way the mouth is on another level. It was noted by some reviewers of Futhark that the use of magical runic hand gestures or positions was left out of the pages of that book. This kind of material is included for the Armenian tradition. I don't know if he meant Armenian. I think I did read this before, but I think this is a good place to pick up from. My pronunciation. In the pages of Rune Might. I felt that it was better left out of Futhark because although the use of such hand positions seems likely to have been virtually universal among all the Indo-European peoples, there is little direct evidence remaining of it in the Teutonic tradition in Futhark, as generally in the Nine Doors of Midgard. I only include those techniques for which there is good evidence in the Elder tradition. Now, that does not mean that I am against the innovation, just that the basics need to be developed before innovation is entered into. In the first place, enough people have worked with the basics of the contents of the Futhark to warrant the expansion of knowledge to the field, and in the second place, I came across some pieces of information confirming the use of magical hand gestures among the most ancient Germanic peoples. I'll tell you right now, there's one mudra that is a runic mudra that I know that I think also may be a Eastern tradition mudra that serves the same purpose and thus has had a name change to be related to the Norse manner. So it's for Thorisaj, and that one is a little interesting. So if you see my hands as such, the lower fingers are overfolded, and then the top fingers are here, creating the kind of like the point of the Thorisaz rune, right? And then you also got to have your middle fingers here curled inwards like this, right? That's also part of it, and then the knuckles are touching, right? And then this, you hold posture couple inches in front of your navel. You can go a few inches out if you are feeling expansive. Okay. Besides the general supposition that the form of the Elhaz rune may be inspired by or reinforced by the splayed human hand as a sign of protection or warning to potential adversaries, there is the direct evidence of a magical gesture being given by a real flesh and blood ancient Teuton. This is the Windby Girl, one of the famous so-called bog people. Many of the bog people were human sacrifices, and this may have been the case with the Windby Girl, but it is far more likely that she died of natural causes. She was, however, pinned down in the bog by birch branches placed over her limbs. Her eyes were blindfolded, and she was placed in such a way as to appear to be directing toward her own face a magical hand gesture similar to that, sometimes called the fig. This is done by placing the thumb between the clenched fingers of the hand. The thumb between the clenched fingers. See that looks like it's for the Thorisaj rune. So this would be a different one. This would be a mudra. I think this one is showing some one-handed mudras. Makes me feel similar as the hand gesture I held in Zen meditation. Okay, yeah. Well, there's, in meditation in general, having any form of mudra over your navel is going to be there to charge the powers of the lower Dantian. This is let's see. I think in Egypt, the Badra and the Ka, I can't remember which one is for the physical body, right? But whichever one of the Badra and the Ka, that's the physical body. as it were, right? These are the lower rungs of the psychosomatic northern soul complex, or as this book does it, the traditional northern soul complex. Okay, she was pinned down in a way to appear to be directing towards the fig. This is for the time and place of the Windaby girl is interpreted to have been an apotropaic protective sign to ward off evil. One interpretation of all the circumstances of the Windaby girl find is that she died of natural causes, yet someone had reason to fear that she might return in the form of a walking corpse to plague the community. Right, okay, so that, like, why didn't you just burn her then? Like, typically you would burn someone. We're talking about Viking funeral type shit, basically, here, right? I guess, like, theoretically you didn't have to, like, burn everybody or whatever, but, you know, you were found in a bog. You were tied down in a bog. You committed a crime. You do that when somebody commits a crime, unless she was being fucking murdered or something. She was therefore treated to a special form of burial. The runic inscriptions of the elder and younger ages attest to the fact that this fear of the walking dead, known in Old Norse as the Draugr, or the awakened, sent on missions of mayhem by some magician or Drauginger, was well known. So a Drauginger, that might be, or that's technically the TH, Drauthinger. So a Drauthinger, that might be like a necromancer. Like a necromancer. Not like a, I talk to the dead for, you know, for good reasons. This is the, I do profane with the dead, right? This is about black magic. All, you know, necromancy is not inherently black magic, but there are forms of necromancy that are, right? Other evidence can be used to corroborate the idea that the ancient Germanic people had a developed system of magical hand gestures. One primary example is found on the Kragsta runestone in Sweden from about 550 CE. It bears an image of a man holding up his hands with widely splayed fingers. Many scholars interpret this as an apotropaic sign as well. The inscription on the stone may be a personal name, Steen, along with a magical Galdar formula. See Flowers, Runes and Magic, page 265, et passum for further discussion. These kinds of internal evidence, coupled with the general notion that the Teutonic people may have shared in a tradition with their Indo-Aryan brothers inherited from common Indo-European tradition, lead us to conclude that there is enough evidence to warrant the wider distribution of the practice of magical rune hand positions, or håndstoder. Among the Indians, these gestures are usually called mudras. Now that you have progressed this far in the practice of stoder, know the trials and tribulations of the practice of stoder. So this is cool now, right? See, this is why I love getting, like, the down low on the lingo and stuff, right? Because, you know, like, I like to keep the context of what I am doing to the language that it is derivative of, right? So, if my hand gesture is ultimately backed by the context of coming from Sanskrit ideas and systems, then I'm going to use words like mudra. But if I am doing something from my ancestral primal magic of the North, I'm going to try and know my tongue better, right? Like, this is the big difference between what a practicing magus like myself does versus guys that are kind of like using the formulaic intermixed systems, right? You know, like Thelema and Wicca and stuff like that. It's like they've set some loose rules for the sake of having clear, like, you know, communication and proper use of the energies for their craft and their discipline in accordance with their order of the universe and so on and so forth, and everything of that energy that comes from it, right? And then, you know, this gives you the understanding of certain things, right? It's like, you know, I can feel the energy of Salem when I go to Salem. Salem has a certain energy that just pops when you cross over the border, and you feel it. And it doesn't feel as good. Now, Providence, which is also a capital, obviously, but and a major city, but also is with the scale of Lovecraft, also is going to have plenty of that in attraction. And the energy in Providence was cool. It was very good. Right? Which you wouldn't think that'd be the fucking case. But then again, just go look at a picture of Lovecraft when he's smiling. He was happy at plenty enough. Excuse me. Now that you've progressed this far in the practice of Stother, know the trials and tribulations of the practice of Stother. Magically speaking, the Hundstother can accomplish very similar, if not identical, results as the full-body Stother. The Hundstother the Hundstothers have the great advantage, however, of being able to be performed in virtually any location at any time without drawing undue attention to yourself. Furthermore, these practices will develop and concentrate magical power in the hands of the runer. This can also be of great traditional advantage, as the hands are considered to be storehouses of energy and points of projection of such energies into the environment or its withdrawal from other beings. In the practice of runic Hundstother, the runer is to visualize the power of the rune contained in a sphere around the hand or hands, engaged in performing the steda, as the section above on runic physiology has shown. These spheres are the equivalents of the cosmic worlds of Muspelheimer in the right hand and Niflheimer in the left hand, and there are streams of rivers of controlling force connecting the power centers of the hands with the other power centers along the center U column, connecting with the Midgard center is especially useful, of course. It cannot be overemphasized that you should experiment with Hundstother variations. It is really only the vital importance that you develop a set of 24 hand postures that feel right to you, to practice with them and make them your own. With those signs that require only one hand, try using the left and the right hand and see which one feels better to you. Note the differences, if any, in your Galder book. As far as the tradition is concerned, some of the following Stother were taken from ancient Germanic clues, some from the Armanen tradition. Okay, so this is the second time he said Armanen and spelled it this way. So unless this is an I think it's spelled this way, you freaking spell it that way, or it's not the Armenians. Anyway, from the Armanen tradition. And some are the result of personal experiments by the Irmen Dreiten. For more information on the history of runic hand postures, see S.A. Kummer's Rune Magic, published by Runeraven. It is suggested that you substitute Hundstother exercises for full stay-the work in the curriculum, or add them in a way that parallels the scheduling of the full stay-the work. You are also encouraged to practice Hundstother in various odd moments to build your sense of runic power and concentration of that power. These Honstörður are especially valuable in the practice of rune fixing. Now that you have a deep level sense of the meaning of the runes and have some sense of their inner coherent meta language, you will have experiences in which perhaps while walking along you will suddenly be struck by an image in your environment, or even a subjective feeling will roll up from within, and you will think, that's what the so-and-so rune feels like. Yeah, I've had that feeling with so many runes. At that moment, you would like to have a way to fix that feeling or perception or image with the rune in question so that perhaps you could re-evoke it at will at a later time under the controlled magical circumstances. And of course, you also see this with the tarot as well. This will pop up. You may want to get used to noticing that more so with the minor arcana as they get into the little itty-bitty aspectations of progressing through a circumstance, right? It's kind of like the microcosm of transmutation is the run through of Ace to 10 in the lower arcana. The Honstörður are an ideal way of doing this. When such perceptions come, the runer has to make the hand sign while you have the perception, and it will thereby be fixed in the psychosomatic complex of the runer. These build-up are stored and can be utilized at a later time under the will of the runer. Descriptions of the Honstörður. Here follow the descriptions of the 24 Honstörður. They are also all illustrated in the following figures. Variations on some of these can be found in Rune Might. To make the Fehu rune, the left arm is lifted vertically with the index, middle, and small fingers vertical as well, with the thumb and ring finger slanted out parallel to the right. Sign of the horns may be substituted with the right hand. Interesting. Let me go. What I want to do here. All right. It's 24. Right. So this is what he's talking about right here. This one. Fig 5.5, right? So let's just take a look at these and we'll go back and we'll read. So we have here, if I see that correctly, okay. Whew. So this here seems to be Futhark. It's just got this one finger here down. The ring finger is down, and the thumb is like this, right? So that's Futhark. Then Uruz is pretty simple. Thurisaj, okay, thumbs on the inside. That's what's up. Okay, thumbs on the inside there. Right? Ansuz. That's Ansuz, which is, hey, look at that. It's the OK symbol, right? Now, I do Ansuz. I think I've showed this before to you guys. I also do Ansuz. It's probably a little bit more noticeable because it involves touching your head, but I consider this to be Ansuz also. But you know what? I'm just as well. You know what? You're just as well, right? If I did it like this, then I've made a hole for my eye to look through, right? So that makes sense. Actually, hold on a second. Ansuz is I'm sorry, like that, right? So I could perhaps do that, and maybe that's supposed to be the Eye of Odin, right? So I would say that could even be the Eye of Odin. Anyway, so then here's Raido. Now Raido is... Oh, I see. Okay, Thurisaj, the thumb sticks out a little bit in the front here. That's what I'm looking at. Which, that's funny, because that would be like a thorn popping out of the side of a thing. See, that makes sense. That's logical. Then Raido, the thumb's on the inside of the finger, so you've made a reverse fist. Okay, Kenaz is out like that. That makes sense. Gebo requires two hands. right? You know, I mean, that's kind of the, that's kind of that's almost the hands of evil contemplation. Okay, Wunyo. Okay, Wunyo is this pointed down. All right, so that's Wunyo. Hagalaz. And I use this gesture, actually. This is fire posture. You put this over your first eye, and then you go like hot, right? And that's the and ha like that. That is the fire breath tone. You can whisper that, right? It's how you're exhaling. All right, Hagalaz. So, Northeast is ultra simple. Isa, that's obvious. Yera, that makes perfect fucking sense. Let's see. All right. Okay. All right. I like that. Here's, okay, so this here then is, wait, I think those are bent in. That's what that is. That's got to be bent in. All right, that's a little tricky for my hands even, but I'm assuming that's going to work. Okay, so there. That's Uwaj. That's neat. Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, this is Perthro. I think I've seen this Stoder. I think I've seen this Han Stoder in kung fu movies. I think I've seen a kung fu master like do this amongst his, because I don't think that we did that kind of. I don't think I can imagine any Norseman magically fighting and being like, hold something. You know, this is like something being done with a shaman casting a spell somewhere, right, where somebody's not fighting him. Right? Or something like that, right? Or it's a simple thing you do for 3 seconds in the trenches, like you're doing the well, you know, this is apparently the Thor's hammer now, right? You know? So, okay, all right, so that right there, Alhaj, or Algiz. Saulo, okay, Saulo uses 2 hands. All right, and so you're making the soul. You're literally making the soul rune. All right. And that right there, that's Tiwaj. I would have done this for Tiwaj if it was going to be a 2-hander. All right. You know what? We really don't have to read it because I'm just going through this, which all the reading up above is just describing how you do it, and I'm just doing it for you. Okay, so Burkana. If I see this correctly, I think it's just 2 fists like that. That's neat. That kind of makes sense. Ehwaz is, is like that. And then Manaz is, I see. I think, all right. Shoot. Right. Right. Okay. Oh, and they cross. Got it. Oh, okay. Aha! Yes. Yeah, it even looks when you're that's gonna be facing you, right? And you can see Manaz. You'll see Manaz when you do that. So you got these 2 here. Then you bring them together and you cross them over, and it literally looks like the Manaz rune. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay. Laguz, la Claw. All right. Othal. Everybody fucking does this. Everybody does this. So now this is confirmed. This is Othal. And that makes sense, right? Because you're going to put that here. You might put it up here, right? If you're being real wild, you might have reasons up here, you know, if you're really doing stuff. I mean, hell, you could do that behind your back. Anyway, Degaz. Okay, Degaz is, that's interesting. It's like a chain link. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Ingvaj, not Othal. Ingvaj. There's Othal. Then Othal is, okay. All right, like that. Yeah. That looks like Othala. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that all works. Much of that makes complete sense. Um, it was good to know these two, and all of them really make good sense. You see, what's interesting with every single one of these, that like Raido and Burkana. No, Burkana is okay. Okay, so interesting. Burkana has the fists, right? Like fists with the thumbs out, like the way you normally feel when you make a fist, especially if you are fighting and blocking, right? As opposed to what you're doing with the one hand over for Raido or for Thurisaj, or even though you've got your closed hand, the thumb is either in between or it's on top. So this fist and this fist, right? Those are different. They mean different things. And you know what? I need a second. I just want to double check because I can't remember exactly in my head. Give me 1 second. There we go. What's going on here? Okay. Yeah. Just making sure. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Anywho. Okay, we're good. Let's move on. We've got all these, right? Rune thinking. 5. Hold on a second. Let me make sure everything's in line. I can shift this over a pinch. All right. Let me see how long this little bit is. Okay, I'm going to read this page here, and then I'm going to take a short break. Now you have not only established the traditional forms of the runes in your mind, but you have also deeply imbibed the oldest and most traditional seeds of expanded runic wisdom still available to us in the form of the rune poems. You are now fully prepared to let your mind wander freely in the rune realms, and you may be fully confident that what you find there will be of great validity and power. At this point, you should take time in each of your daily workings to contemplate an individual rune. Spend as much time as you like on this, as long as it is beneficial. At this stage, you may find that the runic channels are so widely opened that thoughts and insights come like flashes of lightning, and that days of work can be done in split-second realizations. Turn your attention to one rune each day, as this door should take about 72 days to complete. You have time to spend a total of an average of 3 days per rune. However, there is no need to create a strict schedule here. You may need or want to spend more time on one rune than another rune at this stage. To do this free-form runic contemplation, just use the technique that you have found most useful up to now, whether it is singing the Galdr or just visualizing the rune stave to get your mind on the track of the rune in question. But once this engagement has been established and felt, let your mind let your mind be free of all bonds and fetters. The only restriction is one that you yourself will impose. If you feel yourself losing the feel of engagement with the runic stream as you have come to know it, Retrack yourself using the same technique you used to get yourself engaged to begin with. It is most important at this stage that you record all of your results faithfully in your Galder book. Over the years, in my own Galder books, I have recorded many findings. Years later, I will go back to them, and I find that things I discovered in such contemplations fall into several categories in retrospect. Some will have become so much a part of my thinking that I am sometimes surprised and not seldom delighted to rediscover the point of their origin. Others are seen to be confirmed by subsequent academic research, while some others appear now to be utter nonsense. Although they seemed profound at the time, the most interesting and useful of such records are, however, those which make more sense now than they did then. Seeds are buried in your Galder book. These seeds gestate, and if you go to find them later, they will provide good food for thought. The actual forms, The actual forms that realizations about the runes might take are really dependent on how your own mind and faculties of inspiration have developed. Some make findings in the form of geometric diagrams, others in preternatural scenes, others in words and verbal formulas. As the true runes are unlimited by natural forms, they can take many forms under such circumstances. It is your inner sense of their ultimate form that will guide you in these contemplations. All right, so Toffer 2, or talismanic magic. We'll get to this on the other side of what's going to be a little breather I am going to take. And, yeah, sure, let's do this. Hold on.
Hey, you.
Hey, I knew there was going to be an ad. All right. All right, I'm going to stick with Galdir, and so here is Er. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's do a quick mic check, because PK was telling me that things sounded funky, but now he's not so sure it was my fault. Like you coming through computer mic and not your good mic. That's what it sounds like? Okay. Well, let me see here. Hold on a minute. Let me take a look at my properties, and is it default microphone? We'll just say that. And that should be fine. Okay, mic check. Is that any different, better, or worse? All right, I want to bring that up a pinch, because I could just have my levels down a little bit more than I'm supposed to, because that's kind of a thing. So, all right. So I'm going to get this show on the road. So, talisman magic. Close that there. And minimize you. Thank you. Talisman magic. You have now gained basic experience in the carving of runes and in the talismanic execution of each of the 24 runes of the Elder Futhark. These were the foundations of all that will follow. The essence of how basic Talfar magic works is contained in the threefold formula of the stave, the song, and the rune. Sounds good. Okay, great. Thank you. The working of true Talfar consists of the correct knowledge and crafting of these three elements. The stave is the shape of the actual runic sign, or bind rune, Galdarastafar, etc. The song is the form of the sound formula, usually vocal or verbal, that is used to load the shape. The rune is the actual hidden lore, which is the rune itself, not just the external form of the stave or sound. This threefold essence, shape, sound, and lore, information, acts as a complex lens of focusing mechanism for the will. When a form of threefold concentration and focusing of will is achieved, the magical effect being directed by the will through these tools will be far more likely to succeed. Yeah, so that the way he said that makes perfect sense. I've never really articulated that the third element beyond saying like, well, this is what you kind of pick up about what it is. Like, I didn't, like, lore. Yeah, lore. Lore! That's what it is, obviously, because that's just like, what are the facts about this thing, right? You know, what's the lore of Zerilath Eternal, right? And then I have to tell you this whole fucking story about how all these things happened after I was born. But anyway, continue to practice with the writing or carving of individual runes, runic formulas, and even bind runes. Carve or write them with full attention and awareness while singing the names or other Galdr formulas, either out loud or silently in your head. At the same time, there's things are going on. Let as much as you know of the runic mystery itself drift through your head and flow into the shape and sound of the rune staves and rune song. Ideally, you would draw or carve one stave, rune stave, bind rune, or Galdr stave, every day loading it with all your might and main. Record the results of your work in the Galdr book. You might want to keep the staves that are especially well executed, while those that are not quite to your liking can be destroyed by fire in the fire pot. In the process, or loading them, you make the staves into a magical object, and so they must be treated with respect and care. Obviously, the work you are doing in Galdr and rune thinking will feed this practice as it feeds them. In this, as in most avenues of rune work, we are approaching the craft from a wide variety of diverse angles and grasping the power and knowledge of the runes within the vast network of our hearts and minds. Rune Casting 3, Runic Divination. We know that the rune poems presented in Door 3 originally come from a tradition of runic divination. In fact, the whole practice of Germanic alliterative verse discussed in Door 3 probably has its roots in the practice of runic divination. The poetic stanzas corresponding to the rune names act as mnemonic devices to help the rune caster remember the lore of the rune. Also, the stanzas act as oracular sayings, which could be read in the context of a question being put to the rune stave, thus illuminating the question. You know what? That's crazy how the vowel switches, illuminate and eliminate, are the same fucking word. There's kind of a holy shitness to that when you think about the vast difference of meaning just switching those vowels. Why is eliminate and illuminate that close? Oh my God, that falls right off the fucking tongue. I've never heard those two words said so closely to each other before. Illuminate, eliminate. Motherfucker. There's something to that. There's something to that fucking matters on a ridiculous level when we're talking about the Illuminati, the Eliminators, right? Why does everybody fucking not trust the Illuminati that's wise enough? Because they know eugenics is on the table, and they know that if you're not a fucking Jewish supremacist, you're fucking axed. It's called Loxism. And if you're not useful to these ideological globalist, greater Zionist Jews, you know that they, you know, you are in the lottery for their eugenics program as the protected class that can have a eugenics program. It's completely sick when you think about it. And that's why most people want that conspiracy to be wrong, because they wouldn't know how to fight that conspiracy without turning into literally Hitler. And that is not my aim, one iota. This ain't an anti-Semitic thing. But this is about a lineage within. It's a bloodline within. And they've accrued a lot of power, and they may or may not have a Hyperborean claim. But that Hyperborean claim does not mean that in this world you get to be king of it because you were of a family that once was. Which is not the station of the rabbis in the first place. And I mean the rabbis as the Bach saga means it. What's up, Destruction Art Studios? So, you have used the rune poems to illuminate you up till now. Now it is time to turn that inner illumination to the purpose of helping you to clarify questions in the subjective and objective universe. In practical terms, you will now simply recite the stanza of a rune poem corresponding to each of the runes you come up with in an operation of rune casting. Recite it, reflect on it, and read it in the light of the question. Try to experiment using only the poetic stanzas. The poetic stanzas of the rune poems in making rune readings for a while. Record your results in the Galder book. After a period of experimentation, you may go to a system in which you use a mixture of keywords or other mnemonic devices and the traditional runic stanzas. It is in this aspect that the practice of rune casting most closely approaches the oracular quality of the I Ching, for example. Hello, Z. Thanks for doing these reading streams. I did one today, but I was reading my electrician student workbook. Oh, jeez, man, jeez. Okay. Not exactly what I'm doing at all. Unless it's like esoteric electrical manuals. Is it teaching you how to build a Tesla coil? Because then I'd be impressed. But no, I think that it's great that you're sharing the knowledge of a trade skill, right? That's not quite like what I'm interested in as far as teaching anybody things is concerned. So like if I wanted to learn to be an electrician, I wouldn't be interested in sharing. I'd want to like stick to that in my private study, right? And which is ironic, right? Because this is something that people should be doing privately, right? The study of magic. But for me, it's quite comfortable to be public about it in this manner, and then also sharing the definition of what you're doing privately, right? And saying, like, this is where I would not tell people what you're doing in your magic, right? Just like I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing about this aspect, right? Every ritual that I've ever fucking put up on this channel has always been impartial, right? There's pieces that were personal, that were done just before or just after the filming, right? There were parts of it where I had an inner authority say, show this to people because of the work you're doing, this demonstration is good for others to see what you're doing, right? That's something going on in my inner authority, and that's why I do it. It's not some vanity, look at me, I'm a shaman or a wizard thing, right? It's not that at all. It's why I don't put anything fucking fancy. It's just here's a presentation of shit that I do to show you just life, what it is having a magical life, right? And doing things, and can you feel the meaning of what I am doing here, right? When you watch me doing Qigong in front of Balanced Rock, what is the message of that energy work? Or we just want to make fun of me for slow motion jazz hands? Which I don't blame you, sure. I mean, it's kind of a boring joke because it's technically a boring video. But enjoy the guitar work. I riffed all that myself. In practical terms, you will now simply recite the stanza of a rune poem corresponding to each of the runes you came up with an operation of rune casting. Recite it, reflect on it, and read it in the light of the question. Try to experiment using only the poetic stanzas of the rune poems in making rune readings for a while. Record your results in the Galder book. After a period of experimentation, you may go, I'm sorry, I read all of that, didn't I? I got very lost in talking to Destruction Art Studios because he asked, he shared something that opened me up a little bit. Okay. So, although the rune poems, as they have come down to us historically, are invaluable mainstays of traditional runic lore, we must at the same time recognize that they are far from the original rune poems used in the oldest times. The Old English rune poem undoubtedly contains the changes made due to Christian influence. The Old Norwegian and Old Icelandic poems, of course, represent the younger tradition, and so are incomplete. The Old Norwegian and Old Icelandic poems are, however, more purely heathen in their tone and content. A comparison of all the poems will show that they all stem from a now lost common original station. In an exercise in your capacity to runic synthesize the lore you have learned, and to do so in a traditional manner so that it may be useful to others, I now recommend that you write your own version of a rune poem based on the 24 runes of the Elder Futhark. In doing this exercise, you should take the contents of all of the known rune poems into account and couple this with what else you know of rune lore, both from branches of the tradition and what you have been able to glean from personal experience. To give an example of this, I present the new rune poem which I wrote at this stage of my own development. Real quick before I read the poem, just want to look at it here, and it's a good long poem. Oh, good. We can read the poem and then his closing passage, and we'll be done for the night. It'll be great. We should be done by about 8:45, I think. Okay. Fee will flow to all who freely give. Before the Lord and Lady 'tis good lot, for it is the fire of life. But the snake's red sheath is the strike of men, the strife of men. Urus is an awful might and a fierce mane, high are his horns and hard to stop, but drizzle is dreaded by the hardness of ice. Thus is a dreaded fiend, who brings fearsome doom, yet doughty Thunar can best him, for the hammer is harder than rock, but it is not good to grasp this gruesome thorn. What's up, Penguin? Yeah, we're almost done here. But enjoy the rest of the poem. Ace is the All-Father who dwells in Asgard. He guides the wise along the ways, and wields the might the word. But to those unready he gives a wretched road all wroth. Riding is right for warriors, along the road to wisdom. For those in the hall 'tis good rede, it rolls as a rowel on a wain. But for the horse it is rough and hard. Keen is Kent by its fire, and 'tis mild to all kin. It heats the forge and hearth, that gives light to the lords. But 'tis a canker if wild, and wounds the flesh. Gift is help to the guest, who gambles into the hall. By his gar we know the god who gave the gift, the first gift of ghost. But a gift looks on the gallows for gain. This one, he went totally with like a G vibe on this one. He threw a lot of, he made it a very, it's kind of like the V speech where every sentence has a couple of words that start or end with V in it. So lots of that v sound, and V and F are very close to each other, so there's a relationship there. Ween is happiness and wonder. For those without woes, it is blessedness and a boon to all kinsmen in the clan. But without wisdom, Win becomes woeful. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Like, you got Wunyo, which is supposed to be joy, and so you could say that's win. And then if Wunyo was reversed, you could say it was like woe, because woe is within the word Wunyo. That makes sense. Hail is the coldest grain and the whitest stone of heaven. It was hard on wheat, and yet worse for worms. But from the stone did Sigfather shape the world. Need is narrow on the naked heart. It is tiresome toil it bores, and then it burns. But from its working are wonders wrought. Ice make the iron that comes in the world, and a floor that's over the flux. It gleams like a gem all dear, but it dooms with death those who deal with it lightly. Year is a good and gained when the grain is harvested. To all bairns 'tis a boon when the Lord's seed is sown and good speed is gained. But if deeds are dire, the doom is dreaded. Hugh stands hard in the midst of the yard. Far within their flames of fire, it lives many years and long, but eats a bairn its berries, it will be his bale. Perth is a peg for earnest play, it shows all the shape of ordeals of athelings, but it can weaken a good soul's wit. Elks are awful in the ash of the world, worrisome to untried warriors, but winsome to the wise. And red is the road that is ridden by the runer. Sun leads us over the seas with all good speed. Her light doth lead us upward. 'Neath the stone slithers the snake, but if the soul is sorry, naught comes of the sea. Hugh holds troth well with athelings good and true. He rightly tallies the tides and sits amid the northern sky, but he betokens woe for those who break the troth bonds. Birch is brightest at the blessing of spring. Birth she gives to brains, buried deep in her burrow. But blurry becomes life for those who withhold the bowl. Birch, like Gavo, he went for a sound theme with the B. He doesn't do that with all of these, so he's he's not using that as his consistency, which is fine. Just an observation. Ian is an earnest friend to earls and athelings, bent on great deeds and doings. Together the two are true, but sundered from the soul the earl sinks in sorrow. Man is the gladness of mankind's deep memories. In millet is mildness known, as the mead fills the mind, but moods become musky when mildness is lost. Lake is the water of life, and the law of ordeal, ruled by the lord and lady. In the love grows the leak, but the waves unheeded will drown the wanderer. There's a little bit of the L going on right here, not as much as the others. Ing is the lord of earth, who eastward fared, with his wain over the wave. Riches are his reward, but fruitless are farings without the Lord's frith. Day is dear to Drytons and dolts, light is dealt by lot, darkness is lifted by deeds, but death is the doom for him who dreads day. Odel is ringed with oak and warded all round. In frith and freedom lives the folk, riches follow what is right. But if the ring is wretched, woe will be the winnings. This can be used for oracular purpose, or such poems can just act as synthetic keys to your own knowledge of the runes. The writing of your own rune poem will itself be a powerful tool for your own transformation into a rune master. The material in At the Well of Weird provides the runer with ideas for expansion of the techniques of rune casting, but with all the complexities of form. If the basics have not been learned from within, the results of your rune castings will be less than full of truth. All right. Next time, we'll hit door 6. So right now my schedule is about to change up. I've been working hard and due diligent, covering for a guy who is away on maternity leave at this place where I've been at this warehouse. And I like the gig, and they had a position open up while I was there, and they can't afford to hire me right away because of the process with the staffing agency, but I'm going to take a break from them for a couple weeks, and then I'm going to fill out the application, go through the process, and then get hired direct by them. And so I'm hoping that I can ask for a good starting pay rate. I'm not going to accept anything less than 18 an hour. I'd like to see if I can do 20. That's my goal. So the agency's got to figure out what they want to do with me for the next couple of weeks while I'm waiting for that to happen. And I told them I'm kind of interested in doing that, so I'm going to let you guys know if it turns out right and I get hired by somebody. So, so I'm in that interesting, weird little spot, which means if I've got enough downtime, it means I can get this out of the way, make more time for the other things I wanted to do, such as get back to the box saga and handle some of my interviews and panels that I'm interested in doing, so on and so forth. We'll see how much I get done in between then and then, right? It's just like, because the agency may have no trouble at all finding something for me, right? And we'll see what kinds of jobs I could be taking now that we're nearly in spring. So all sorts of other kinds of like outdoor labor kind of jobs and things like that are going to start popping up and such, right? So at any rate, that's good for tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here, having your participation. I hope to see you all really soon. And peace out for the night.